Growing up, Karl Tanzler, who called himself Count von Kozel, had seen the vision of a woman who told him that he was destined to be with a dark-haired beauty. When he first laid eyes on Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos, he knew that his destiny had been fulfilled. But his triumph in finding her would soon turn to tragedy, causing Karl to take actions that would make his love story infamous. I'm Marina. With me, I have my two best friends, Colby and Laura, and this is Grimm. Hey guys.
Wow. That intro.
Yeah. We were just talking, we're currently geeking out. I got a new fancy looking microphone. I think all three of us are going to upgrade. We were just sort of testing it out. But we're really digging it. I know we got pretty good feedback on our audio previously, but we are nerds and we want, the best.
Yeah. Well, and I know we posted like one picture of our setup. Maybe we can post another of just like how we're set up in Colby's house, but at our dining room table. But we have microphones on the table, and the microphones that Colby and I have, which is what we all had until today, you have to be right in front of it. Like if I talk like this, it's really, really far away. And so it kind of like restricts our creative, flow.
Juices.
Yeah. Like I need to move to really get creative. Like I have to flail.
And we do, and you may have heard us bumping the mic stands in many an episode as we flail around with our hand gestures. But this one, we're really enjoying the sounds of our voice with this one.
You know what we missed out on though is you singing over the intro while we wait.
We did.
Yeah.
You're
Guys,
welcome.
Be jealous. That's what Laura and I get serenaded with every time we record.
Every time.
Maybe we'll just replace the intro music with that.
Maybe that would actually be just not that good, but
it would
we
be
could do it.
a good drunk Grimm
Yes.
intro. Like if we ever wanted to do an episode where we like drank a little bit too much, I think that would be the perfect theme to set the tone.
We did say we were going to do Grimm After Dark one time, and I think we should definitely do that. That's hilarious.
A little bonus episode.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe in spooky season.
Oh, a little bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that intro though.
Wait, so how did Karl know he was going to meet Laura and I? Because this woman said he was going to be taken by a dark-haired, dark-eyed beauty. And I'm just wondering, like, how did they know?
I literally, when you said that, I was like, wait, her name is Laura?
I think once you hear a little bit more about Karl, you're not going to want to be the dark-haired beauty that is his destiny.
Okay.
Yeah. So this case, this is a bizarre one. I would say this is more on the end of mystery than murder, but who knows? Maybe there'll be a little bit of murder sprinkled in.
Ooh.
But I just feel like this one is different and a little bit wild, though our other cases are wild too.
I was going to say, you did just do Catherine Knight, which is for sure wild.
This is, it's really hard to compare the Skin Curtain to this, but they're different. They're different and unique in their own ways.
Apples and oranges, you might say.
Exactly.
Will we be returning to Australia for today's episode?
No, this one is in the United States of America for most of it.
Where?
Florida.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Connecticut.
No, nope. Florida.
Florida makes sense then. Don't threaten me with a good time. Let's go, FLA.
Have you guys ever seen the meme that's like Google your birthday with like a news article? And I think I did it once and it was like, man rides alligator into freeway, and it's just like crazy stories.
I like all the Florida man.
This is worth it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Florida man.
Yep.
That's right.
Florida man who carried alligator into liquor store doesn't remember the incident.
That is accurate.
It's classic.
Yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah.
Classic Florida. We love
Sorry,
you, Florida.
We love you.
We do love you.
We do have
My
listeners
cousins
there.
are from Florida. Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So our story today involves two main characters, if you will, Karl Tanzler and Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos.
Shout out, because you did that flawlessly in the intro.
My brain wanted to trip over it, but I got through it.
You got it.
Thank you. So we're going to start with Karl. Karl Tanzler, which is spelled across the internet with both a K and a C. So unclear to me which one is correct, but we'll just go with it, whichever we're going to post on the Instagram. He was born in Dresden, Germany in 1877.
Probably a K.
Yeah, probably. Carl claimed.
Sorry.
Thank you for that
No,
deep
it's
assessment.
probably like the German versus the American spelling of the name.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. We Americanized it.
Like Karl Marx.
Yeah.
That was hard to say.
You got wicked Bastin just now.
Sorry.
Cal Max packed his car.
I was also thinking of what's that thing where it's like, Carl,
Get the hot dogs, Carl.
Carl. Yeah.
Wow, we're off the rails, guys. Right off the jump. I like it.
We'll pull it back in.
Okay.
Rein it in. Okay. Carl claimed that he grew up in a haunted castle that had a ghostly figure that he called the White Woman, or Countess Anna Kozel. He believed this ghost was his alleged ancestor, Anna Constantia von Brockdorf. Carl believed that the Countess visited him and showed him the woman he was destined to be with. A stunning, dark-haired, what he called exotic woman who was destined to be his one true love. But of course, this woman would be someone like Salma Hayek or Catherine Zeta-Jones. It wouldn't be like a balding, toothless gargoyle of a woman. She's like, this is your one true destiny. He's like, nope, didn't see it.
Next.
Swipe right, left. I don't know.
I don't know. I never got to do it.
Yeah, no, I've been with my husband for 19 years, so definitely was not on dating apps. With a premonition like that, Carl was always on the lookout for his true love. After Carl finished school, he traveled a lot. On a visit to Genoa, he saw a statue affixed atop the grave of a woman named Elena, who died at the age of 22, and the statue looked like the dark-haired woman from his visions. He said that he started to weep and kept saying Elena over and over. He said it was at that moment that a ghost emerged from the statue and he made eye contact with her. He tried to follow her, but as he did, he lost her in the crowd.
Wait, where was the crowd? The crowd was
In
he in
Genoa.
a cemetery?
At the cemetery.
He was at the cemetery. He followed her out of the cemetery. He like walked after her and he lost her in a crowd of people.
Okay. Thought there was a crowd in the cemetery. Okay.
No.
Also, what year-ish did this happen?
Late 1800s.
Okay. That helps
Yes.
a lot. Okay.
Carl continued to travel, and prior to the start of World War I, he ended up in Australia.
If I had just waited.
There it is.
Okay. So 2002. Okay.
So, yeah, I guess Australia's in this case. Hey, guys. I love it down under. While in Australia, Carl said that he was visited by the ghost of the woman promised to him by the Countess. She visited twice, and on the second visit, she appeared to him, they embraced, and he felt a divine bliss before the spirit melted away and reappeared in another room of his home. He says the ghost hung out with him for a week, following him around the house. He called her Aisha. When the ghost left, he was depressed, but he knew they would meet again. Carl later learned that his father had fallen into a coma and died a week later, which Carl said coincided with the week that Aisha spent with him down to the hour. Now, it's very unclear to me why Carl would call this ghost Aisha when he had this divine moment at the cemetery with the statue of Elena and was repeating Elena over and over again. So unclear to me why he named her Aisha
Bad of hearing.
instead of Elena.
Yeah. Bad hearing.
Yeah, I don't know. Just he went rogue on that one. And, you know, Carl's stories, he's nothing but trustworthy. When World War I broke out, Carl was actually interned at a concentration camp as a prisoner of war for safekeeping because of his German heritage. While imprisoned in the camp, Carl claimed to have built an entire organ from the debris he found in the camp.
Which, like, organ, not
Like a
a
church
bodily
organ.
organ. Okay.
No, not a bodily organ. Could you imagine?
What debris would he assemble organ out
He's
of?
in a concentration camp. I mean,
Yeah.
there's.
He's like, guys, look, I made this liver that I just took out of that person's body. Yeah, no, like
Those
a
people-
church, like a church, a functional church organ.
You need to stop using words that have multiple meanings.
People do love when we ask for clarification. They're like, I too was unsure if it was a human organ or a church organ.
I think I might be alone on that one.
Guys, there's no minors or minors in this episode. So I guess it's just the organ.
Is it Polish or did he polish? Okay, I'm done.
Oh my gosh. So funny. So after the war, Carl was released and returned to Germany to find his mother. He lived with her for 3 years before his mother told him that he should go be with his sister, who had moved to the United States. Carl spent some time in Germany before moving to the States. In 1920, he married Doris Schaefer, and they had 2 children, Aisha. Weird, right?
Weird.
Yeah.
Who named her?
Him?
I know.
That wasn't on the internet. And Clarista.
I dig it. I'm with it.
I'm trying not to make a comment on every single name, but that one made me think of Clarissa Knows It All.
Ooh, Clarissa explains it all.
Explains it all. Oh my God. I knew that sound. It wasn't enough syllables in that one.
Unfortunately, Clarista died when she was only 10 years old from diphtheria.
Oh.
As you do in the 1800s.
You do. Well, early 1900s.
Has Balto run the Iditarod yet?
Marina's brain just broke. Those were words.
No, that was the medicine he was bringing to the kids, was for diphtheria.
Really?
I'm like 97% sure.
That is a grim fact that I did not retain in my brain box from when I was a child.
Now I got it.
You complete me.
Well, so she's going to Google that. Meanwhile, I've been Googling because I was like, I just don't associate Florida with the 1800s.
It did exist.
1845. In fact, I just had to look it up.
We were again in the 1900s, but I mean, yeah.
Well, I've been Googling for a while.
It was. Yeah. Balto and his teammates were carrying a serum for the treatment of diphtheria.
Wow.
That was like 2 grim facts in
You
2
heard
minutes.
it here first, folks.
Well, bam.
Okay, well, Balto wasn't there in time and she died from diphtheria. Carl emigrated to the U.S. in 1926 to Zephyr Hills, Florida, where his sister was living, and he was later joined by his wife and 2 girls. Carl was eccentric, to say the least, and he considered himself to be quite important at this time. Carl said he had 9 degrees and self-titled himself Count von Kozel, which he said was the name of an alleged ancestor. But his wife and family said he made it up himself. He was not a count in any way.
Okay.
He dubbed himself a count. The medical degrees, licenses, and medals he held were all proven to be forged, but he was considered well-read on medicine, radiology, and X-ray technology.
Okay.
And he was well off, receiving a military pension for his involvement in World War I.
Making those organs.
Yep.
Very important work. Carl left his wife and kids and took a job as a radiology technician in the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West using the name Karl von Kozel. Key West was only over 7 hours away from Zephyr Hills, according to MapQuest, so just a short commute to see his family if he wanted.
Mm-hmm. You used MapQuest?
He did.
Why?
Why not the Google Maps?
To see how far Zephyr Hills and...
But you use MapQuest still?
Yeah.
That's what's got us. Not that you looked up directions. It was MapQuest.
Like, I thought maybe Carl used MapQuest.
No,
Carl pulled out
I'm
that
really
atlas.
concerned. How do you get
World atlas.
How do you get to work?
Oh, guys, sometimes I still use MapQuest for work to check for, like, mileage.
Oh, no.
You may be
For, like,
committing fraud.
They don't update that?
No, those maps.
No, those are still waiting to be printed on your inkjet printer.
Wow, I feel like I just got schooled. You're making me feel like a grandma over here.
All right, so 7 hours.
So, as I said before, you guys made fun of me for my map questing. Carl went to work at this hospital in Key West, and it was at that hospital that he met Maria, who goes by Elena. Elena was born in 1909, and she was a Cuban American who led the normal life of a teenager in the 1920s. She was a devout Catholic, and she loved cooking for friends and family, dancing, and singing. She was allegedly so beautiful and such an accomplished singer that tourists would ask for pictures with her in the street. At the age of 16, Elena married a man named Luis Mesa, and shortly thereafter, they were expecting their first child.
Oof. Young.
Yeah.
Very young. Probably not in the 1920s, though.
Good point.
True,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess I was thinking 16 is still pretty young.
Yeah, but
yes,
less
less
so
so.
in the 1920s. Sadly, Elena miscarried the child and began to develop a cough.
Oh no.
At first, her family thought that her illness was just due to sadness brought on by the loss of her child, but when she failed to recover, the family became concerned. It was around that time that her husband left for Miami, leaving her alone as she became sicker. People deal with grief differently, but nice guy, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Jeez.
So in 1930, when Elena was 20, her mother brought her to the U.S. Marine Hospital in Key West for treatment. It was at the hospital she underwent tests that were overseen by radiologist technician Karl von Kozel. For Karl, it was love at first sight with Elena, and he believed that she was the dark-haired woman of his dreams. Karl was concerned at first to see that Elena was listed as married in her records because he was wondering how could the universe finally bring this woman to him and she's already taken.
Fair question.
But he later learned that her husband was not in the picture. So, with that hurt a lot of the way, they could be together forever. Or maybe not. Unfortunately, the tests at the hospital that day confirmed that Elena was suffering from tuberculosis, which was one of the most prominent causes of death at the time. At one point, tuberculosis killed 1 in 7 people living in the United States and Europe.
Holy shit.
And Europe. Oh my God.
And Europe.
I didn't realize it was that bad.
It was. And in the 1930s, that's when sanatoriums were a popular treatment for tuberculosis. The treatment was essentially fresh air and rest. And let me just say that I would like that prescribed to me as well.
Yep.
I visited that seaside sanatorium in Waterford, Connecticut, and that view will cure whatever ails you.
Wait, what is a sanatorium? I don't know.
I looked up the definition of sanatorium because I found it interesting. There's an overlap between basically like insane asylums and sanatoriums, but sanatoriums are basically like facilities that are devoted to curing some sort of medical ailment.
Okay.
So a lot of those sanatoriums in the 30s started out as tuberculosis wards, and then as tuberculosis started to like fade into the sunset, they turned them into asylums for people who needed mental health treatment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Grim fact.
We like to learn here. I think ocean breezes and decent naps can cure a lot of ailments. Not as much as modern medicine, but at least it's a pleasurable treatment.
Yeah,
like I would
you'd
be
die
okay
happy.
with that. Yeah. So Karl knew that there were places like this that could maybe cure Elena, and he offered to send her there. But Elena and her family declined. But Karl loved Elena. And despite his lack of qualifications, he was determined to do whatever it took to save her. So he dedicated himself completely to the task. He disregarded hospital protocol and attempted to save Elena through the use of tonics, elixirs, some even containing pure gold dissolved into them. And he pilfered x-ray equipment that he brought to Elena's home, all free of charge.
Naturally.
Karl even tried shock treatment. He would shock her by connecting electrodes to her body via transformers and then would give her medicinal wines. Which I do not think that those were effective treatments for tuberculosis.
Poor Elena.
Or anything.
Yeah.
Just a bad day, maybe.
Yeah.
Karl said Elena's family hindered her treatment because he was willing to do absolutely anything that he needed to do to save her, but her family was distrustful of him and his methodology, which, can you blame them?
I wonder why.
While treating her, Karl told Elena day in and day out how he felt about her, expressing his undying love. He also made countless proposals while she was, in essence, on her deathbed. Elena did not reciprocate Karl's romantic feelings whatsoever. She repeatedly told him he was too old for her. He was over 30 years her senior.
Whoa.
He was around 53 at the time, and she was also not divorced from her husband officially. Just a reminder, Karl was also married at this time.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. And it was also around this time that his youngest daughter died from diphtheria. So he was a real stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He also wrote Elena letters, and in one he wrote, "So often you have said that I am too old for you. But listen, darling, I never count my years, neither do I count yours. If you were a mummy 5,000 years old, I would marry you just the same. I swear it's not for selfish reasons that I want this marriage, but because I can do so much more than a boy your age. I can offer you my science, my experience, my capacity to save your life, and this apart and on top of my undying love."
Stage 5 clinger.
Yes.
I was going to say, how could you refuse that offer? It sounds great.
Also a little creepy.
Just a little bit.
Little creepy. In an interview Elena's sister gave to the Miami Herald, she confirmed that Elena never loved Karl. She said Elena was only nice to him because her mother told her to be kind to those who were kind to her. She said Elena viewed Karl as a grandfather and told him she didn't love him. But Karl persisted. On one occasion, Elena had to return to the hospital on a day that Karl was working. That same day, Karl received word that his mother had died, and in his mind, the universe had sent him Elena that day to comfort him in his time of grief. I guess you can really read signs into anything if you try hard enough.
That reminds me of
Marvin, and all the signs he got.
Yeah.
So many signs. But he ignored all the ones that told him not to do it. He just went for the ones that supported his vision.
You want the signs that support what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Karl became so persistent in his affection for Elena that the family told him to stay away from the house. The family did not like Karl's unorthodox, quote-unquote, devil machines that he was using to treat Elena. But again, Karl persisted. So the family literally moved and did not tell him where they went.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
But Karl wouldn't let anything stand in the way of his one true love. He roamed the streets at night searching for his love until a sympathetic neighbor gave up the family's new location.
No.
God damn it.
The family knew that Elena was fatally ill at this point, so they basically just let Karl keep on keeping on. They let him continue his treatments while Elena continued to decline his marriage proposals.
Okay, family. That is not cool. Like, she's on her deathbed, literally. You can't, like, keep this guy away.
Leave her in peace.
Yeah.
Like, she's just trying to die.
Jeez.
Elena was not happy about having to deal with Karl, and she died hating him. Apparently, she actually died on 2 occasions, and Karl resuscitated her via electric shock. It was so painful that she begged her family to ensure that she was too far gone before Karl was informed of her death. Yet Karl claimed that Elena asked him to take care of her body after her death.
Oh, no.
He quoted her as saying, "If I must die, all I can leave you is my body, for I am only a sickly girl, so I can't marry you while I'm sick, but you will take care of my body after I am dead, won't you?" Karl obviously agreed to this most likely fictional arrangement, and in his mind, this was their marriage vow.
Oh, dear.
Well, it would have been rude to not agree to that arrangement.
I mean, she was asking. That was like her dying
Right.
wish.
You have to honor a death wish.
He wrote a note for Elena to carry around that said that Karl was her husband and that she was of sound mind, since there were rumors that Elena's family was going to have her moved to an asylum. Elena died on October 25th, 1931, at the age of 22 due to complications from tuberculosis. Karl was upset that he had not been informed sooner, as he still felt that he could have saved her. Karl signed the cause on Elena's death certificate as expiration from a series of violent seizures clinically associated with dormant epilepsy. Tuberculosis, epilepsy,
I was wondering why
same
not TB?
difference? I don't know. We might talk about that a little bit later on, but yeah. I don't
Okay.
know. A little bizarre. Her death did not end Karl's obsession with her.
Oh, no.
Karl talked Elena's family into letting him stay in her room, and he lived with her family.
No. How?
Family, what?
He rented the room from them,
God.
and they let him. Karl paid for her funeral out of his own pocket and even paid for her internment in an elaborate stone mausoleum, a building to which only he had the key.
Oh, no.
He had to build the elaborate mausoleum because he said that water would get to Elena if she was buried in the ground and cause her to decay, and he couldn't stand to even think about that.
I'm uncomfortable about what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I just feel that I know where this is going.
You may, but it's wild. So this mausoleum, Elena's married name, and she was still legally married at the time of her death. Her legal name was Mesa. That was not engraved anywhere on the tombstone. On the bottom corner was what said C.T.D. Kozel, which stood for Countess Damsel Kozel, which is another made-up title created by Karl.
Right.
So, just living in his own little fantasy world over there. Karl said a strange new life began for him after Elena's funeral. He said, "Now at last, nobody could take my Elena away from me. Although I could not see her any longer, I felt her presence all the time." For 2 years, the face that Laura is making is amazing.
I had a moment when we just said, like, when I said I'm afraid of what's coming next, and our faces did the thing, and I was like, oh, I get the title of the episode now. I don't know if that's going to be the real title, but I get it.
I put that together. Yeah.
And now I'm caving in on myself, too.
You can't protect yourself from what's to come. For 2 years, Karl visited the mausoleum every night, bringing Elena a gift every evening. Speaking of gifts, he would also inject her body on an almost daily basis with formaldehyde to try to keep her from decaying.
That was actually a question I had.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Karl said he felt a peace in visiting the mausoleum, and after 18 months, Elena started talking to him. She asked, am I really dead? And Elena told him she wanted to go live inside of his home.
So we're kind of making light of this, but I am just trying to process a human actually going in for a year and a half and seeing a dead body every single day.
That's crazy.
Single night. Every single night. And I know that they have these mausoleums and you can go in and the casket is inside, but I don't think that most people like open it up and look at them.
No, I don't think
all the
so either.
time.
No.
Also, he's married and has a child, right? As all of this is going on?
One child left.
Left.
Yeah.
I would say that he basically abandoned them when he went to Key West because it's not within driving distance. Like, he just does not ever go see them.
Yeah. Thanks, MapQuest.
I don't like you. Karl said he believed that Elena was sending him signals, showing him things to do to move her body without getting caught. Karl wrote in his journal, "I'm so happy to be back with you, my darling. Very soon, the hour approaches when I will take you home with me." Karl rented a house next to the cemetery, and in 1933, about 2 years after Elena's death, Karl put Elena's casket and her decaying corpse on top of a toy wagon and wheeled her body through the cemetery to the rented house.
2 years.
2 years.
What does a body look like after 2 years? I mean, I know she's been injected with formaldehyde every day, but like, what is that doing?
The body's not going to look great. And to be clear, she was still in the casket at this point. He didn't like curl up her body in the toy wagon. Like he had her in the casket and he, brought that with him.
Okay. Slightly better.
Is it? 2 days later, Karl moved her body from the house next to the cemetery to a makeshift lab that he had in a wingless airplane that he called the Countess Elena. Prior to her death, Karl was actually working on restoring the plane and had claimed that the couple would fly away together to a private island that he said he owned because he'd discovered it. Which is, it's not really how it works.
Yeah, that's how I remember.
Well, I don't know.
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
We live in America.
He's like, I put a flag on it, so it's mine now. In his makeshift lab, Karl carefully worked to restore Elena to her former beauty. There was mold and slime that were consuming her body, so Karl meticulously removed those to preserve her. He took samples to make sure that there was no harmful bacteria on her body, and then he sunk into her coffin and gently kissed her.
No.
Safety first, though, guys. He made sure that there was no, dangerous bacteria.
Oh, thank God. That's what I was very concerned about. I thought there were germs on her body, and that's why I was making those sounds.
Safety
that's
first.
Okay.
Safety first. He made plaster casts of her entire body to ensure that her beauty was always preserved, including a death mask. He washed her hair and cleaned what was left of her skin.
Oh, sorry.
And this was not a one and done thing for Karl. He had to continuously maintain her body as she continued to decompose. Now, he would use piano wires to maintain her skeletal structure because as she was decaying, her muscles and her skin were breaking down and her body was falling apart. So he just used those to keep her skeletal structure together.
This is so much more detailed than I anticipated.
So wait, so he basically stitched her with piano wire?
I think he wrapped the wire around her bones so that her bones stayed together in the skeletal form that it's supposed to be in. Yeah. He then stuffed her body cavities with rags to try to keep her true form because as her organs decomposed, her body was caving in. Mm-hmm. He gave her glass eyes since her eyes had decayed and had sunken in. Also, when you die, the only part of your hair that is alive, the follicle, also dies, and your hair will eventually fall out. So Karl just gathered all this hair together and crafted a wig that he put back on Elena's head. And to prevent insect problems, he coated her whole body with a layer of silk coated with wax and balsam to basically replace the skin that was slipping and rotting off of her body. He also had to spray her body constantly with perfumes and preservants to keep the smell of her rotting corpse at bay. I'm sure she did not smell like a flower.
No, but I was gonna say Elena's ghost was probably like, yeah, you better smell that, Karl.
Meanwhile, I was thinking if you take a long time in the bathroom and you spray some Febreze, it does not really smell better.
No,
it just smells like flowers and shit.
Correct. Okay.
Yes. Correct. I feel as though we're in a flowers and shit situation here.
We are very much in that situation, yes. But, Karl was very diligent. He consistently applied mortician's wax to keep her looking alive.
Okay.
And to finish the look, he dressed Elena in a dress, gloves, and jewelry. Two thoughts at this point. One, Karl's actions are atrocious. He is desecrating poor Elena's corpse after her death, and she did not love him.
No.
I'm not saying I would be pleased if my husband did this to me after death, but at least I love him, and I'd be like, oh, he's trying to stay with me. She couldn't even get away from him after death.
You said she died hating him.
Yeah.
And this is what she has to endure. Her body has to endure for her afterlife.
It's offensive. How dare he?
Yeah.
And guys, the second thought is Karl did her dirty. I mean, she was beautiful. And there are pictures of her mummified corpse, and they're not good. She looks like a bad mannequin. I think I failed to mention, he drew eyebrows on her. She looks like a bad, plaster mannequin. It's not good.
I'm sad that I'm going to have to see this because I have to see it now.
The pictures are going to be on our Instagram.
At Grim Crime Podcast.
Yes, at Grim Crime Podcast. So Karl took his corpse bride home with him and placed her in his bed, where he lived with her for the next 7 years.
No.
What?
No, I'm done. I'm out.
7 years. Over the course of those years, Karl bought her gifts and perfumes as if she were still alive. They really just had a typical relationship, spending nights together, celebrating holidays together, just like a really great couple. I mean, she was his destiny.
Yeah.
Laura's face is real sad.
It's so disturbing.
You have rendered me speechless, and that is a feat that you have accomplished, madam.
There are a lot of people at our company that are very interested in how you did that.
You're going to be like, how do I shut her up, please? Well, tell me the tale of the corpse bride, and then I will shut up real quick.
7 years.
You're going to have some weird meetings on your
I
calendar.
definitely am, yeah.
If you'd like to pause it, we'll take a quick look at Elena, just so you guys have that for reference.
I would not like to, but I will.
You're going
I will
to.
do it.
You're going to. So we just paused so that Laura and Colby could take a look at Elena as the corpse bride mummy.
She's looking at me from the table.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
And she was very pretty. You're right.
She was.
She was.
And that is really upsetting.
I mean, she's not a bad mannequin, but not a good.
I would not buy those clothes.
No. Karl needed an eyebrow stencil. He did a very bad job with her eyebrows.
He did. Were those eyebrows more in style in the 1930s?
No.
Never.
Never these.
I figured out what it made me think of. When I tried to draw people as a child, that is what my people looked like.
Yeah, their face is too long and their nose is weird and
Yeah,
their
eyebrows
eyes are
are
weird.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah, her eyes are like they look like what you would draw as a bad artist.
And the wig looks like a bad toupee that's been ever so lightly placed upon her head. Even Donald Trump's toupee is better than this. That's how I feel. It's just...
I bet you they blow similarly in the wind.
I bet you they do.
If I had to guess.
And I'm sure Karl knows what Elena's hair is like in the wind because he's so gross.
Oh, well, he probably would because he danced with her body, so in his spins, I bet you her hair just blew in the wind.
How did he even do that?
Well, she was well constructed with piano wires and, silk covered in balsam and wax. So she was like legit a mannequin. The town gossiped about Karl because he was a recluse at the time, but he appeared to be involved romantically with someone that nobody in the town ever saw. They saw that he was constantly buying gifts for a woman, but they never saw the woman. People also noticed that Karl had stopped visiting Elena's tomb, which he had done faithfully for over 2 years.
They must have gotten into a fight.
Yeah. Although he was careful in not getting caught moving Elena's body, he was less careful at home because one day, a young boy walking by his home saw him dancing with what he said looked like a life-size doll through the window. I'm sure the boy thought it was weird, but never imagined the reality of the situation. Elena's family grew suspicious, and it's unclear to me how this took 7 years, but that's another story. In October of 1940, Elena's sister went to Karl's house to confront him. She wanted Karl to open up the coffin in her sister's mausoleum, and he refused. She became really angry and said she just wanted to see her sister. And he said, "Well, why didn't you say so? Come with me."
Oh no, her poor sister. Oh my God.
He told her that Elena was in his home, and Karl actually thought that the family would be happy that he'd taken such good care of her. At first, her sister didn't even believe what she was seeing. She did not think that it was Elena at all.
Yeah.
She thought it was like a sick joke. When it started to sink in, Elena's sister was like, "Listen, just return the body to the cemetery." But Karl refused.
Naturally.
4 days later, the police came to remove Elena's remains from the premises. Karl was arrested for wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. The case was a local sensation, as you can imagine, and some people actually took pity on Karl, finding his actions to be those of a hopeless romantic. Key West's most experienced lawyer even offered to represent him pro bono. Karl was open with everyone about his actions and explained that he truly believed that he could restore Elena and bring her back to life. The judge asked Karl if he had a sexual relationship with the corpse, which he denied. He said he was a scientist.
Oh, so was the toy box killer guy, right? He was also a scientist.
A sexual scientist, in fact.
It sounds like Karl maybe as well.
Yeah, Karl was lying. What remained of Elena's body was autopsied, and they found a tube in her vagina that was wide enough to permit sexual intercourse. At the bottom of the tube was some cotton, which upon examination contained sperm.
Oh.
Colby's face.
I knew, but I didn't want to hear that.
I'm so sorry. I'm just presenting.
Colby is literally speechless.
I'm gonna get closer to the table. I feel like I need to lean on it or something.
I'm presenting all of the
Okay.
the grimmest facts.
They are the grimmest facts.
So not only was Karl dancing and sleeping with Elena's remains, he was also having sexual intercourse with her. And I bet that Karl would not even identify as a necrophiliac because in his twisted reality, Elena wasn't really dead.
Yeah, she was alive the whole time.
Yeah.
How'd that hold up on the stand?
Well, this information was not released by the pathologist at the time, likely out of respect for Elena's family and because the case was already sensational.
True.
During the court proceedings, there was a question of Karl's mental health, which I'm sure is shocking to both of you.
Very.
But Karl said that his real plan was to bring Elena back to life through intergalactic means. He was going to take her high into the stratosphere so that radiation from outer space could penetrate her tissues and restore her to life. He was casually turning the airplane that was his original makeshift laboratory into a spaceship to execute his plan. So that checks out. A psychiatric evaluation of Karl stated he was in a, quote, borderline state, but otherwise sane and mentally competent.
I don't know.
Compared to whom?
The intergalactic means got me. I don't know about that. Doesn't sound that right to me, but I'm not a psychologist.
No, but Karl needs one. I
have never seen Colby this speechless.
There are situations, I guess, in life that I am not prepared for, and this is one of them.
Well, guys, in the end, Karl was cleared of all charges because the statute of limitations on his crimes had all long since passed. So he just walked. He was free to go.
No.
But get this. Karl asked both the court and Elena's family if he could have her back.
No. Like,
Well, the family
emphatic.
probably said, "Oh, okay."
They did not.
Okay.
They did not. Everyone said no. And he was mad about it because Elena was his.
Right,
But
right.
they did all say no. This is odd. Rather than put her back in her mausoleum, the state put her on display at a local funeral home where nearly 7,000 people were able to come see her mummified corpse.
I shook my head so hard that it like moved everything on the table.
You
I'm
have
sorry.
you have whiplash
I
now.
do.
Oh my gosh.
What?
So 7,000 people viewed Elena in this horrific state that Karl had put her into.
Yes.
What? Who thought of that?
I don't know. And I'm not sure of the timing of this. I'm not sure if they put her on display while his charges were pending or after, but she definitely was on display at some point, and everyone that wanted to was able to go view her. And apparently the reaction to Karl's work was overall favorable. They thought he did a good job.
Come again for Big Fudge. I'm sorry, what?
It was favorable to Karl. Following her display, Elena was finally laid to rest in an unmarked grave in Key West Cemetery by 3 individuals who took the grave's location to their own to ensure that she rested peacefully.
Good.
Couldn't have done that a while before then.
No. Well, I mean, it took 7 years for someone to be like, can we see Elena's body? And Karl's like,
Jeez.
no thanks. So after he was released, Karl gave tours of his lab for a quarter a person. But he eventually wanted to get away from the notoriety, and he ended up moving back to Zephyr Hills near where his estranged wife, daughter, and sister lived.
Oh, remember them?
Yeah. He didn't move back to them.
Oh.
He just moved back near them. He was
Right.
with his sister for a while, but I think his family was just dead to him at that
Yikes.
point.
But Elena wasn't?
Nope.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Just
Elena-
gonna say that. That's a
Elena.
dangerous position to be in around
Yeah.
him.
One true love.
Yikes.
On the day he left, Elena's prior mausoleum mysteriously exploded.
What a mystery.
It's suspected that Karl used dynamite to blow up the tomb before he left. The engraving from the tomb with Elena's name still exists and is on display at the Fort Martello Museum in Key West.
Poor Elena.
After he moved, Karl initially lived with his sister. In 1944, he moved into his own home where he built a shrine to Elena. And he lived with an effigy of her that he made with the plaster casts he had taken of her body.
Dude, she's just not that into you.
Yes.
Fuck off.
Like, she literally died multiple times to get away from you. Back off. And that wasn't enough.
That's what actually the name of this episode should be.
She's just not that into you. In 1947, Karl published his memoir, The Secret of Elena's Tomb, in the pulp...
What's the secret?
the tube.
Oh.
Wait, TUBE?
I don't know. I thought she said tomb the first time.
That's what I also thought.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
But Colby said, what's the secret? And I said the tube.
It is.
Okay, so
It just, I know, like, I don't think any of us are trying to be disrespectful by laughing at all, but,
No.
like, that's literally the only way to cope with something that
Yes.
is this absolutely batshit insane that a
Yes.
human being actually did.
And I think that's it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful
No, of
to
course
Elena
not.
in any way, but the story is just so wild, and when you're removed from thinking
Yeah.
of her actual body, it is almost comical to me. Like it's
Yeah.
just hard. It's hard to process as reality.
yeah, when I think of her, it makes me sad and angry for her because
Yes.
it's so
Right.
offensive. And when I think of him, it's you have to laugh. It's just so insane.
It's just and like Colby said, like that's the way that you're coping
Yeah.
with it, because
Right.
it's unreal. It is unreal.
Oh, but it's very real.
It is very real. So, 1947, Karl published his memoir, The Secret of Elena's Tomb. It was in a pulp magazine, Fantastic Adventures, which was then used as the basis for several books. Karl extensively claimed in this memoir, as well as during his 1940 court hearing and in numerous newspaper interviews, that he had been seeing apparitions of Elena ever since he was a child, and it was the ghost of her that instructed him to enshrine her body in his home. Karl's last journal entry said, Human jealousy has robbed me of the body of my Elena, yet divine happiness is flowing through me, for she has survived death forever and ever. She is with me. In 1952, at the age of 76, Karl died alone in his home. Well, except for the human-sized figure of Elena.
Oh my God.
And I'm sure that the Elena ghost was there to ensure him safe passage, and they lived happily ever after together.
He probably went straight to hell.
I hope he did.
Yeah. Ugh.
So one of the reasons we love this podcast so much is that stories that we already know, when we research, we find new information.
Mm-hmm.
And I found new information on this case that I did not previously know. In my research, I found a very well-written article titled "Twists in a Twisted Tale: The Exploitation, Defilement, and Murder of Elena Hoyos" by Kevin Walsh. And that led me to discover that there is evidence which strongly suggests that Karl may have actually killed Elena himself, which is a very bizarre twist. After Karl's actions had come to light, some people came forward who had a bit more information. One man told a magazine that Karl had told him once, "I've spent my whole life. I've roamed the earth searching for Elena. 50 years ago, she appeared to me in a vision, and she promised then to be my bride. Now I've found her, and I'll kill her if necessary to fulfill my destiny."
Did he think that she was going to be his bride in death from the beginning? Or that she was just going to be his bride?
I think it was just she was going to be his bride, but I think when she did not want to be his bride, it was one of those like, "But you are my destiny, and I will fulfill it however I need to."
So wait, could she have survived tuberculosis? Like, no. So it was more
No.
that he accelerated.
Yes. So in another statement to the Miami Herald, Elena's sister said that Karl had warned her father that if there wasn't a wedding before Christmas, there would be a funeral. And there's also an article in a magazine, this is so bizarre, from 1982 that contained a story called "Florida's Frankenstein and His Laboratory of Love." In that article, there was information that someone had been renovating a cottage which belonged to Karl at some point. And when they tore down the wall, they found what appeared to be a confession note. The note read, "She died because I gave this to her mercifully. I mixed the root of wolfsbane, monkshood, with aconite diluted. It was palatable, and my loved one departed this miserable world on October 25th, 1931. Suffer no more, sweet Elena. I have sent you to the angels with my golden elixir." The poisons mentioned in the note can cause seizures, and the police log in Elena's case noted that she had experienced violent convulsions before her death, and that's also what Karl had written on the death certificate.
Oh, so he fucking killed her.
Oh.
The demolition worker and supervisor who found the note also found bottles of the elixir in the wall of Karl's old residence.
Oh my God, wait. So did he write the autopsy report, Karl?
She didn't have like a formal autopsy. I think he signed her like death certificate.
Okay. Because I was trying to think, where did he put it? But that was, when he signed it, that was basically a freaking confession, and nobody knew because he said her cause of death was related to like complications of seizures and epilepsy type stuff, not tuberculosis. And I was wondering, like,
Why would he do that?
Right. Like, was it shameful that she passed from tuberculosis? I don't think so. You said 1 in 7 people passed from it. So you wouldn't be trying to hide that cause of death. He was hiding in plain sight the whole time.
Yeah. If all of this is true.
Yeah.
And upon further investigation, there was testimony from people in the neighborhood that said the weeks before Elena's death, Karl had persuaded Elena to swallow double doses of the elixir that he was giving her. And as I just said, her body was never autopsied, so there was no way to confirm if she was poisoned. In Karl's defense, as Colby mentioned, her diagnosis was more than likely already fatal. But it was like if she wouldn't succumb to him in life, he wanted to control her in death, so he sped up the process.
And he was already doing things to her, trying to fix her, like shock treatment and giving her things anyway. So it would not have been out of the realm of possibility that he also gave her this elixir or something.
Right. It's just hard to know, like, there are some things then that would be inconsistent. So if he gave her this elixir to speed up her death, then it wouldn't make sense if he was shocking her back to life.
I was wondering that.
And she begged her family to like not tell him so that she died before he could do that again. So I'm not sure. It's possible that it's just impossible to find logic in a situation where it doesn't exist. It all could be true and illogical, or the story has gotten a little convoluted as time passes. But I think it's safe to say that Karl was twisted, and did non-consensual things to Elena in both life and death.
Yep, I think that perfectly sums it up.
Guys, that's the story of Karl Tanzler and his corpse bride.
I don't know what I expected out of this episode, but it was not that.
So what do you think? Was it romantic? Are you guys leaning with the popular opinion of, Karl's work? He did good work, and it was the actions of a hopeless romantic.
I hate you, but it's a respectful hate. That's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
No. I do not. I'm not Team Karl in this one. I'm going to be the dissenting opinion here. You're right. He did Elena dirty. Like, girl was way more beautiful.
She's beautiful. Yeah.
He made her look like she was permanently surprised.
I'm just really offended at her lack of power in this.
Me too.
I'm actually pretty angry at the family too.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't have been. It's not like they had a relationship and then this all happened. Like, they never had a relationship. He was 30 years older than her. She wanted nothing to do with him. She was in a weakened state, ill on her deathbed, and they didn't protect her. So I'm pretty mad about that. And then he's just terrible.
I can see it in the beginning because her family did not have a lot of money.
Yeah.
She was sick. They couldn't afford these expensive treatments. And Karl was basically offering the moon and the stars for free, bringing x-ray equipment from the hospital to their home. So to them, it was, in the beginning, at least, there was some hope.
Yeah.
After they moved away to be like in hiding, and then he found them and they let him back in, even though she was fatally ill, it's like, she's on her deathbed. Just let her die in peace. Let her fade.
Where
away.
was Elena's father in all of this? I 10 out of 10, my dad would have chased him out with a shotgun, and if he didn't leave, he would have blown him apart and not even thought twice about it.
I think he was in the picture. There was no indication that he wasn't part of this family unit that was letting Karl do what he was doing.
How do you think that neighbor's feeling?
Oh my God, they probably feel like the biggest asshole in the world.
One who told them where they were living.
And I think that poor neighbor probably thought that he is some sort of medical person.
Sure. Okay.
She's sick and he's so concerned about her well-being and he needs to be able to treat her. He probably spun a web of wonderful lies to get the address out of the neighbor.
2022 maybe hasn't been the best year, but I'm gonna say it's better than at this time, because this never would have happened.
It could be happening right now. There could be
I know,
someone
I realized that as I said
in the United States with an 11-year-old corpse in their bed.
Hey, if that's you guys, let us know. Hit us up at grimcrimepodcast@gmail.com. We want to hear about your corpse bride. Just kidding. Please don't tell me about your corpse bride. I don't actually want to know about it.
We would legally have to report that.
We want to tell your love story.
This is like Delilah.
Delilah.
I don't know that reference, so...
What?
Was that just a where we grew up thing? Like, you would call Delilah for love advice. She was like an older, knowledgeable woman who would give you...
Yeah. In the evening, like...
Yeah.
What? Okay.
No.
All right, now I'm curious, because we do have listeners in 49 out of 50 states. So I am curious, who's heard Delilah?
Yeah.
I have not, guys. I'm sorry.
I know.
Was this just a Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire thing?
But now I am thinking, hey there, Delilah, what's it like?
No.
Not the same.
No.
Different
Different
Delilah.
Delilahs?
Yeah.
Darn. Okay.
Yeah, so let us know.
But I will say, apparently, that song, Hey There, Delilah, like, Delilah was not his girlfriend. That was like a girl who I'm pretty sure he was obsessed with, and I think she was really creeped out by the song.
Okay, well then that is very appropriate to end this episode with.
Yes, okay. We'll leave it at that.
Wow.
The real-life Delilah is a competitive cross-country runner and graduate of Columbia University who never dated the guitarist and frontman Tom Higginson, who wrote the now-famous lyrics. Although Higginson admitted that the long-distance relationship between the two was fiction, he did tell her that he had written a song about her in hopes of it impressing her.
Close enough.
So they were never together.
Okay. So, hey there, Delilah. If you're enjoying listening to Grimm, please rate and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts to make sure you don't miss any episodes. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, we would be forever grateful if you took a minute to leave us a written review. Follow us on Instagram at Grim Crime Podcast for information on future episodes and case photos and to see a picture of poor Elena. If you want to send us a case suggestion, which people have been doing, or just say hi, you can email us at grimcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Listen, learn, and stay alive until next time, because the future is grim.